My name is Nickeia Hunter. Um, we're here to have a conversation about the work the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability has been doing. I would like to have Ms. Sonia introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sonia Joseph, and I've been doing this work since 2017. Um, and the coalition has been working together since 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And I don't have an option to stop doing this work until we do get accountability.
My name is Davida Briscoe. I'm the sister of Shay Taylor. My brother was killed February 21st, 2016. He was killed by two Seattle police officers. My brother and I, Andre Taylor, his wife Dub, we started Not This Time, which is a grassroots organization. We pushed for Initiative 940. I'm also a member of the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability. And welcome to our conversation today about the key priorities and policies that we're pushing around police accountability in Washington State. Thank you to our champion legislators, Representative Jesse Johnson, Representative Deborah Intiman, and Representative Neelan Tai, and Senator Jamie Peterson, and others.
Thank you, DeVitta. I would just like to express to you the reason that now is the time and the reasons that we can't wait anymore. There's been 100 deaths since I-940 was enacted, and there continues to be slaughtering of our Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. Last Thursday, there was another killing in Clark County. It's just that until we put in place a system that is going to allow accountability, transparency across the board, so that when an officer takes a life, there is a thorough investigation, not by their counterparts that they work with or their brothers in another unit in a different precinct, that are allowed to help build narratives that still give no clear clarity or sound peace of mind to the families that have lost their loved ones. It is now that we need to push to support these bills. We need to push to support the representatives that are helping make these things come forth to the legislation. I mean, it's just time to really be present and to be a part of your community and to stand and understand that every life is sacred. And until there's a system put in place that values those lives as equal, we will continue to bury our loved ones with no justification and no recourse to the officers just because they're officers. You can't hold the dentist to a higher standard for the care he gives to your children's teeth than you do the officer who's supposed to protect and serve your children's lives. So I ask you to please make sure that you're present and watching these bills as they move, and that you make your voice heard, so that we don't have a bunch of children with no fathers or children with no mothers. Charlena Lyles, I mean, it's just, there's so many. Manuel Ellis, Giovanni Joseph will never have children. His mother will never get to see him walk across whatever stages he was supposed to walk across in his life. I'm sure he was a great young man, and it pains my heart to have to welcome families into this realm of stolen. You know, it's really hard. So I ask that you get out there and you pay attention to what's going on in your communities, because I know that my brother wasn't the only, Sonia's brother wasn't the only, I mean, Sonia's son, DeVitta's brother, Shay. You know, I mean, we have blood stories. Our testimonies are real. And so we ask you to listen with a keen ear and to pay attention to the way things move, and help support your community, help make a change. I'll pass it over to Sonia so she can tell you about the next steps or actions you can take.
Okay, so, you know, you can march, but what's the next step? And that's follow through with writing emails, making phone calls, showing up to help testify, to let your voices be heard. There are many ways that you can get involved. Start following the Facebook page, check out the website. There's call to action on the website that will give you precise directions on how to get involved, what actions are needed, whether it's logging in to tvw.org to watch the hearing, to testify on the hearings, or if it's emails or phone calls that need to be made. Your voices are important. It doesn't matter if you're young, you're old, black, white, brown. It doesn't matter. If you believe in accountability and justice, then take the next steps to hold, your legislators and your senators and the governor accountable for what we want as a community, and that is justice, and that is changing policy, and that is changing the police culture. Thank you.
So I'll talk a little bit about our first bill, which is House Bill 1054, which bans excessive violent tactics like neck restraints, tear gas, no-knock warrants, shooting at moving vehicles, hot pursuits, and militarization. With Shay, when they shot Shay, they approached him and shot him within 9 seconds. They had military weapons. They gave him conflicting commands. He was complying with their commands. Then not only after they shot him, they handcuffed him, turned him over, and left him to bleed out for over 8 minutes. So this bill is really to address discriminatory practices in policing, to change the police culture. What we're seeing right now all across the country is police officers who are vigilante police officers who are playing a role of judge, jury, and executioner right there on the spot. Shoot first, ask questions later. What we're trying to do is change the police culture and putting a statewide policy where officers have to or must de-escalate before resorting to use of force as a first resort, making it a last resort and only when it's necessary. That's the emphasis that we want. Also, the issue of police dogs. I have family members who were attacked by dogs, where they were aware of their location, but they released the dogs to attack them. So Shay is not the only family member that I have lost. He's not the only loved one that I've lost to police violence. I know many, many people that have been victims of police violence. Within this coalition, there are 18 families that are standing with us and that are pushing for these reforms. 18 families says a lot, and that says that these are issues that we want to push, and we want to get our legislators behind to push these through and to get out of committee and to get these bills passed. So House Bill 1054 is the first bill. The second one, I don't know if you want to say that one, Sonia, 1310.
Yeah, I can take it.
Okay.
So 1310, de-escalation, reasonable care in the use of force and the use of deadly force only as the last resort. 940 mandated violence de-escalation training for every officer in the state. Implementation and rules adopted by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. This creates a statutory requirement that officers must de-escalate when appropriate. This clarifies the duty of reasonable care an officer owes the public. It clarifies the strengths, the changes made by 940 to a justifiable homicide defense for police officers by explaining that deadly force is justifiable only if it's necessary to protect the officer and other persons from an imminent threat of serious physical harm, and is used only as a last resort after all options have been exhausted. And I'll go ahead and let DeVitta speak on the next bill.
The next bill is House Bill 1202, which removes barriers to filing civil cases and reinforcing the duty to de-escalate. So it's a companion to the one that we just spoke about. If they do not use, if it was not necessary, if it was not a last resort, and if they do not explore all other options, then civilians can bring civil cases. What we are seeing across the country is where there's qualified immunity, where officers are able to not face any type of accountability. So we're wondering why, no matter how egregious the acts are, no matter if it's caught on camera, no matter what we're seeing, these officers are allowed to get their jobs back. And usually that's through unions and arbitration and qualified immunity. So this addresses the qualified immunity and being able to sue police officers. And we believe that if that happens, that will reinforce for their superior officers, chief of police, to push for more changes in policy and to also push for more accountability. Right now, because of qualified immunity, it's the reason why we're seeing what we're seeing across the country the way that it is. So this bill is very important to us as well as House Bill 1202. House Bill 1267 promotes transparency and accountability through independent criminal investigations. None of us trust that the investigations into our family members were fair. Most of us, what we're especially with my brother and most of the investigations that we're seeing across the country, lacks transparency. Also, we feel like even with my brother's case, they didn't find the so-called gun until 2 days later, till it was in the tow yard. So a lot of times we're looking for investigations that are completely independent. We just don't believe that police can investigate other police officers. And so we want investigations that are fair and that are transparent to the public. So anyway, so that's what House Bill 1267 is, independent investigations. We can go and Sonia, you can go ahead and address the next Senate Bill 5051.
So this is the decertification. And so, you know, we are sick and tired of officers who continue to use deadly force, who continue to use misconduct and continue to have a job. So the decertification bill is a proposal that is put in place to have oversight, and it changes how the CJTC and significantly how the community and the membership of law enforcement is conducted, as far as having a license. You know, an attorney has to have a license, a doctor has to have a license. And if there's some misconduct, they can be stripped of their license. So this bill is very important because it allows for decertification and an officer to lose their license and to continue to work as an officer or continue to work as in the field, on the streets. And it's mandatory that it's shared, and the reporting is shared with all the local agencies about the decertification. And this is a real consequence for misconduct, and it allows for the authorities of the criminal justice system, the Criminal Justice Training Center, to hold officers accountable when there is misconduct by decertifying them and taking their license. So please make sure that to go in and help with writing to legislators or making phone calls about passing this bill. It's very important because it's something that we don't currently have. As of right now, officers do not have to get a license, and if they have misconduct, they can, move on from their department to the next department to the next department, and that trail of misconduct does not have to follow them, and they can continue to work. And so this is very important for us. Thank you, and I'll pass it on to DeVitta.
Oh, back to me. So these bills, they work together to make a stronger system that protects the community, improves the profession. Our work involves bringing forward the truth and getting at the truth. what we've just seen over and over and over is a system that insulates officers from any type of accountability. And not just as a family member, but even just as a community member. We have to be courageous in bringing forth change. We have to impress upon our leaders that it's their responsibility, and they work for us. We can complain to the system all day long, but they have to be courageous in pushing forth reforms. And the time is not tomorrow. We shouldn't have to sit back for any delays. What we believe that life is sacred. We believe in the sanctity of all life. And we know that Black and Brown and Native communities are disproportionately impacted by police violence more than other communities. But we are asking for this. We believe in the dignity and the rights of all people. These experiences point to an urgent need to fix a system that accepts the continued loss of life. We're losing in Washington State. We've had about 40 deaths a year from police violence. About 40 a year. Around the country, there's about 1,000 a year of people who die from police violence every year. So we're asking for your support in pushing these reforms, to contact your legislators, to impress upon your community, to make yourselves more aware about these bills, and to contact your representatives and to say that you support these bills being pushed out of committee and passing. I'll turn it over to Nickeia.
Thank you. I thank you all for your time and tuning in to listen to us and to make sure that you're updated in what's going on with the legislation and in your community. We ask that you, as DeVitta and Sonia said, take an active role. Don't let today pass you by without doing something to help show your support for a cause well needed. We need to save all lives and hold accountability for the families that are left behind to have some sense of justice and closure. My brother left behind 6 minor children. It's a joy to be in their lives. It's a joy to be there for them, but I'm not supposed to be their father. And he should be here to enjoy them. His youngest baby, he never got to meet her. And so I just hope that you can help me and help Sonia and help the other 18 families, DeVitta and so many others. Just help us push these bills. They're so important for the change. They're important for our future. We thank you for your time. We thank you for tuning in. We hope to have more information for you in the days and weeks coming as things move along. Again, we thank you.
I just want to say one last thing. So, we need to draw the line where on these tactics that are being used recklessly. And, I urge you to take the next step and put these bills into law because these new policies will help save lives. And thank you for tuning in.